That leads into the next question, which is illegal immigration. It would appear as if there is a political aspect to the sheriffs in this state when it comes to actually abiding by the laws, when it comes to arresting and deporting those that are found to be illegal within our state. What are you planning on doing in order to address that issue?
Well, I can tell you, I met with one of our sheriffs here in the state of Georgia just today. We had lunch. We talked about a number of issues. One of them is the illegal alien problem here in Georgia. And, I think that what I could do as the governor and what I have pledged to do is to be the governor who, number one, understands that the highest constitutional authority in every county in this state is the sheriff. It's not the Board of Commissioners, it's not the tax commissioner, it's no one but the sheriff who is the highest constitutional officer. And as governor, I would aggressively work to support our local sheriffs, because most of our sheriffs would do their jobs, they would get rid of these illegals, they would round them up if someone would help them and take them off their hands when they do that. Many times the feds do not do their job. But if there was a governor who was pushing the feds to come take them, much of that would improve. But even in those cases where it did not improve, if we had a governor who would aggressively assist these sheriffs in getting the illegals out of their counties and out of our state, and they knew that the governor was going to send someone to come get them and deport them, even if the feds did not, to at least get them outside the boundaries of our state, our sheriffs would be much more inclined to continue to pursue this. And the truth is, it would make their jobs much easier, because there are many different multiplied ways in which their jobs are more difficult because of having to deal with illegal aliens that are not citizens. And so I think I could aggressively support our local sheriffs in doing their constitutional duty in getting rid of illegal aliens here in Georgia.
That would be good for the citizens of Georgia. And I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit more on that. But for right now, let's shift the subject a little bit to these wonderful tax and spend programs that are coming out of Washington right now. And they're being foisted upon citizens all over the country. We have an opportunity here in Georgia to really make a difference, to set the tone for the rest of the country by being as conservative as we are meant to be, and by being as responsible as we are meant to be. And to that end, when things like cap and trade and the health care bills start coming down and start being imposed upon Georgia citizens, what is it that Ray McBerry is going to be able to do to get Washington off our backs?
Well, here's where it becomes of the utmost importance that whomever we elect to be our governor for the next 8 years here in Georgia is the strongest constitutional conservative we can find, someone who knows the Constitution, understands the Constitution, and more than that, also understands the mechanisms that a true states' rights governor could employ to put the 10th Amendment into effect and to block the federal government and these things coming out. Because any of those issues you just discussed and a myriad of others really have their solutions in a very simple answer, and it is the 10th Amendment and states' rights. The states compacted together to form the Constitution of these United States. It's a contract. It's a binding contract. It's not some loose, nebulous idea floating around. It's a contract in writing with very specific terms, and the states are the entities that are parties to the contract. Despite what we're taught in our civics classes, the truth is the federal government was not even a party to the contract or to the Constitution. It's a creation of the contract. So the states are parties to the contract. They created the federal government. It's simply the agent or the servant of the states. And therefore, the states have the authority and the responsibility anytime the federal government gets outside its authority that is prescribed within the Constitution and Congress, particularly Article 1, Section 8, anytime it oversteps those boundaries, the states have that responsibility to step in, just like you do with a wayward child, and say, no, you're outside your boundaries, and force the federal government back within those confines. A states' rights governor should, use nullification and interposition to do those things. Interposition, of course, is where the governor steps in personally and with the office of the governor and says, as the chief executive of the state of Georgia, what you're doing is unconstitutional. I will not allow you to do that and infringe upon my people's liberties. And he basically interposes himself, puts himself between his people and their liberties behind him and that out-of-control federal government facing their, attacking their liberties, and stands as a wall of separation between them and says, I will not allow this to take place. He then has started the process of nullification, declaring null and void those unconstitutional things coming out of Washington. Here in Georgia, just about 2.5 months ago, Governor Perdue held a meeting in Atlanta in which he discussed with about 200 business and political leaders from around the state two subjects, energy and health care. He had a panel that gave us data and statistics on those two topics, and then he asked us to give comments or questions from the floor. And after the segment on health care, I stood, thanked the governor for putting the meeting together, and asked him, Governor, since we understand that national health care is not within the confines of Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, would you be willing to personally start the ball rolling here in Georgia to nullify any act coming out of Congress that deals with that in the event that it does come out of Congress? And I can tell you, Governor Perdue, his face turned red. He was not happy that I asked him the question that I asked. But, and by the way, he didn't really answer the question. But I'll tell you what he did do just a couple of weeks ago. This was about 2 months after me asking the question. He did follow the advice that we gave, the question that I asked him. And he did ask the Attorney General here in Georgia to write an opinion for the state of Georgia, stating that we do have the constitutional right to nullify any federal health care bill coming out of Congress. And about a week later, the Georgia General Assembly introduced a nullification bill to nullify any federal health care coming out of Congress. So those are the right things to do, and the fact that our campaign in this governor's race continues to be here and has been so active all around the state. I've spoken more than 150 times across the state on the subject of the 10th Amendment just in the last 8 or 9 months, and people everywhere are beginning to press both our governor and General Assembly to do those things. So if we have a governor who knows what a states' rights governor can do to employ the 10th Amendment, it's going to make all the difference in the world between that and having a candidate who says he believes in the 10th Amendment but has no idea actually how to put it into place.
Ray, as leader of the state of Georgia, you are going to have some really difficult tasks in front of you, not the least of which is to guide the Attorney General and to guide the Secretary of State, to guide them in their actions. Now, how do you plan on actually following through with the nullification process? How would you actually follow through with that?
Well, again, I think that the governor has the responsibility to exhaust every resource at his disposal to block those things from even coming into our state. One of the powerful tools that the governor has is the bully pulpit of his office. The governor absolutely should be going to the people of Georgia and speaking directly to them. And if we had a governor who was, number one, knowledgeable on these issues, and number two, articulate enough to do it, he could help the people to understand that there is a concrete, tangible way that their lives would be better off if we threw off this yoke of unconstitutional federal encroachment and returned to the Constitution. And if the governor would do that, use his office as a bully pulpit to do that, the people would rally around a governor, I believe, who would stand up for their liberties. And I'll tell you, if he did that, there would be enough pressure on the legislators under the Gold Dome here in Georgia that they too would follow suit and they'd pass those nullification bills and put teeth to those resolutions they've been talking about, because they would do it for one of two reasons, Carl. They'd either do it, number one, because they genuinely believe it's the right thing to do and they just haven't had the leadership leading the way, or number two, they would do it because they would see very quickly how popular it was among the people and they would not want to be voted out of office the next go round.